So, and there's this evangelist named Billy Graham. Billy Graham said that a coach will impact more students in a lifetime than anyone else. But I'm gonna take it a step further. And I'm gonna say a good coach will have a great impact on more people than anyone else in a lifetime. So here at the Coaches Co-op, I like to introduce you to good coaches, and I got a good one today. So let me introduce him. Today's guest is knocking on the door of coaching immortality. He will crack the 500 win mark at some point during the 23-24 season. He began his coaching career coaching boys and girls at New Waverly. But if I remember correctly, I believe I remember this brother coaching at the YMCA on Ella Boulevard way back in the day. Is that right, Coach?
True story. True story.
Yeah. Listen,
Camp
listen.
director.
Listen, man, the greats come from everywhere. So listen, he made 3 consecutive state final appearances while at New Waverly on the boys' side from 2008 to 2010. He made a stop in Longview before his current stop. So I need y'all to please welcome New Waverly's finest and Westfield High School boys basketball coach, Billy Goffney. Coach, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well, man. Glad to be here.
Man, I'm
Appreciate you
glad.
having me.
Man, I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you sharing your time, man. I really appreciate you sharing your time. All right, coach. Listen, so we dive right in, man. So let's talk about you. So here's the first thing I want to ask. When did you know that you wanted to be a coach?
Probably in the seventh grade, man. I'm sure we'll touch on some things as we go on through the podcast, but and really what we're talking about now, those coaches that impact you at an early age. My seventh grade coach was that guy that I wanted to emulate and wanted to be like, and he just had a profound impact on me as a 12, 13-year old. And so I kind of knew that I wanted to have that same effect on kids and be a part of the game, much like he was way back when. And Kenneth Gillum, he's my mentor, and it's kind of been my and still is my mentor actually. So we still have a good relationship. So I always wanted to be a part of the game and be able to be spoken of in that way. It wasn't as clear as a 12-year-old, but as I got into it and started doing it, that became my purpose and my calling for it.
Man, coach, I'm glad you said that because coaching is a calling.
Definitely.
The most successful coaches, those that I've come across, they treat the profession as more than just a job. It's a calling. So one of the potential discussion questions I ask is about mentors. So you just mentioned uh, that Coach Gillum, is that his name?
Yes.
All right, Coach Gillum was one of your mentors. So he was your junior high coach.
He was my junior high coach. His first year, and actually our stories are a lot similar. He's a New Waverly guy, born and raised, and then he came back to coach. My seventh grade year was his first year back in New Waverly. And he coached us seventh and eighth grade basketball. But, at those smaller schools, he's a coach all the way through.
Yeah,
He wasn't a
yeah.
high school head coach, but he was, on the high school staff and worked with us all the way through. He coached us in football, basketball, and everything at the school that we participated in. He was a part of that.
Okay. So, coach, man, when I see you, Hooper's got like a little walk to him, a little swag when they walk. So, man, I know Coach Goffney a little bit. I've been knowing him a few years. So, coach, man, you got that Hooper walk. So were you a Hooper back in the day?
Yeah, man. I like to brag on New Wave a little bit, and I say it's one of those last bastions that's a town that's an actual basketball community. Texas is a football state, of course, but you got these little pods around in the area, and we were successful in all sports, but we considered ourselves a basketball town. So we grew up playing this game. It doesn't matter how much work we had to do. At the end of the day, it finished up with us somewhere on a dirt court, or we'd ride bikes wherever we needed to get on some concrete. But we had did what we had to do to get to the game. So I played basketball all through high school, and I was able to walk on at Lamar University my freshman year. And played there for a season. We did what they called a JV travel squad, where we played some local JUCOs and got that. But my sophomore year, we got caught up in a coaching change, and he wiped everybody out. So that ended my coaching career. But I was in love with college by then anyway. So uh, the basketball part of it stopped, and I replaced it with college life.
Okay. Okay. So that was the end of your playing career. All
Yeah.
right. All right. So, man, that I haven't asked anybody this question yet. So you can be the first person to ask this question. So if you had to have a Mount Rushmore of coaches, right? So
Right.
coaches, either they coached you or just coaches that you've had the chance to observe. Hold on one second, man. My dog is in here messing up. Move, man. He in here bumping the camera, moving the camera all around. Doggone menace, man. Look at this. We just gonna have to roll. We just gonna have to roll with it like this because he didn't jack the camera up, man. So coaches Mount Rushmore. Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of coaches?
Um, my, of course, the great John Thompson and the great Nolan Richardson. Those are my two definitely at the top. And then
Yes, sir.
being in the Houston area, I always been a big fan of a Guy V. Lewis, of course, with the
Okay.
Phi Sigma Jamma days, and I'm a Duke fan, so I got to put
Okay.
Coach K up there.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
my Mount Rushmore of on the college level. And I'm a college basketball fan. I like the game. I still feel like it's some purity to it on that level. Um, and I can't take all the commercial stops and all this commercialization of the NBA. So I'm a college guy, and so that's what I love, and that's what I love to watch.
Okay.
And so those are my guys.
Man, that's a good list. Matter of fact, somebody is gifting me a book, and the book I'm getting is I Came as a Shadow, John Thompson's book.
Of course,
So yeah, man, definitely.
yes,
Listen, huge Georgetown Hoya fan.
huge Georgetown Warrior fan.
Man, 40 minutes of hell. Not being a native of Texas, I don't know a whole lot about Guy V. Lewis, right? I know about Phi Slamma Jamma. I've watched. I want to say they had a 30 for 30 on them, so I watched that. But that's the most in depth I can probably go with them. And I'm gonna tell you, man, it took a long time for Coach K to grow on me, man.
Yeah,
Cause but so much respect for the greats like him. Cause man, I still don't cheer for Duke, right? Even before he retired, I could not root for Duke, but had so much respect, man, for Coach K and the type of coach he is. Coach, that's a good list, man. All right, so let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. When it comes to coaching, what is your why? And a two-part question. When it comes to coaching, what is your why? And then the second part is, how did you develop your coaching philosophy?
um, I think my why is family. Um, and I say that why I do it is the relationship that coming going into my 29th year, the relationship that I've built with these kids over 29 years. And I've coached girls and boys, and so when and still being able to see so many of them because I'm going back home. I coached there for 15 years, and so when I can go back in a situation and I can stand there and talk with some of my former kids, and they can tell their kids about what a nature hike is, and that bus trip, and what Coach Goffney did and what Coach Goffney said. Just being able to have that positive influence on kids. Um, and then, the part of it that, you know, you can see them instilling in their kids what you instilled in them. Because, we deal with so many kids who I was such a father figure for so many of them. So it's not about the X's and O's and on the course. It was just the fact that I could give them an image to see what a lot of them didn't see. As far as that being that positive black male in their life, and giving them that opportunity to have a model to model, their kids after, whether it be female or male. And just the fact that my phone still is full of my kids that I coached 20 years ago who still call me and ask for advice and remember that one thing that you told me. And so that's my why, just that relationship that comes from it.
Okay, man, that's good. So before we get to part two of that question, year 29, coach?
Year 29, I started in 94, man. I don't know where it went. I
Wow.
don't know where it went.
Wow.
I got my first job right out of college, went back to New Waverly and stayed there for 15. And, I did a Longview for 6, and this is completed my 6th year at Westfield. So, yeah, man,
Okay.
it flies.
Wow. Yeah, 29 years, man. Coach, I never would have guessed that, man. I never would have guessed 29. But you said something that I want you to talk about a little bit. This nature hike.
Yeah.
Talk about the nature hike, coach. You
Well,
tried to kind of slide that in there. I'm like, no, we talk about the nature hike.
well, being out there in that rural type area, we had, we went, and that was the first thing that we did every day, and that goes back to my coaching because he would put us out, and it didn't matter how cold it was. He was gonna put us in some sweats, and we ran this trail that went around town and down. It was about 3.5, almost 4 miles, if you did the whole thing. But we were gonna get out and we were gonna hit that nature hike, and it was the first mile of it was pretty much all downhill. And so when we get down to that last big loop, and then you turn around, and now you're running a mile back up the hill. So it was depending how I feel.
Ooh.
And most of the time, I'm in the car. I'm driving behind them, and
Okay.
or on a bike. I never ran it with them myself because I ran it enough time in high school myself. But then
Right.
at times, we could make a right when we got back up to the top of the hill and go all the way around the town. And that's the beauty of growing up in those type areas. You can do stuff like that we can't do out here off of Ella Boulevard. But so we would loop and go all the way around town, come back down beside the railroad tracks, and you passing by people's houses and they would see and wave, and it was just a part of that
Yeah.
whole atmosphere. So it was a cross country course basically, and when I got back to it, we called it the Nature Hike. We named it, and it's a new Waverly legend right now.
Listen, coach, I can tell. I know because you
Yeah,
ran it, your
yeah,
kids ran it, and they still running it.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I I'd bet good money that they still running it. That's good stuff,
Yeah,
coach.
part of that
That's good
tradition.
stuff. That's good stuff. That's how you build, man. That's how you build community. So one
Yeah,
of the things I always tell people is like, man, it's more than basketball, it's community. I
yeah,
think if we do it the right way, it's community. All right, coach, how did you develop your coaching philosophy? So you start fresh out of college
yeah,
at New Waverly, then you coach on the girls side, coach on the boys side, Longview, and now you're at Westfield. So over 29 years, how did you develop your philosophy?
yeah. Well, when I got back, I knew, we all probably go back to how we played in high school, which, and it stayed with us because we were running gun up and down, press you. Our whole deal every time we hit the court, we just called it drop that dollar. We was going for that bill every time we could get on the court. So that was our philosophy from day one, was to bust the clock.
Yeah.
And so you enjoy that type of basketball, and we were so free. That's one thing I can say about my coach, is that he let us play. And we could play the game. We could, we knew each other so well because we've been playing together for so long. So we would get out there and get up and down. So I knew, ingrained in me from my high school day, that that's what I wanted to do. I had a year of real structured basketball at Lamar, and I knew that that really wasn't my type of game. So
Hmm.
uh, when I got back, here's the thing though, it was that one time in New Waverly basketball history where we didn't really have a true basketball coach. Some things that happened right before I came back, right before I graduated, and the basketball coach ended up leaving. So the football coach, one of the football coaches, took over. And he was a defensive coordinator. He was a football coach. He knew a
Yeah.
little bit of basketball, but he wasn't a basketball coach. So, and we were, so when I got the job, I was a head junior high boys 7th and 8th grade basketball. And of course, you coached everything else at the school. But I knew, with those kids coming through, we were automatically going into that diamond press and getting out there, teaching them to break. and getting after it. So that was my coming in. And at junior high you can do a lot of things, so I really
Yeah.
wasn't an assistant. That's my thing. I've never been an assistant coach in a good system, I guess you could say. So I had to develop a lot of stuff on my own. So I read a lot of books. We didn't have access to all this YouTube stuff like you do right now. So
Right.
I was always a student of the game. Some teams in the areas that I liked and I watched, and I studied, and I brought a lot. My head coach played at Sam Houston, and so we did some good stuff in high school. But like I say, he didn't bottle us down with a bunch of sets and stuff. And so I did a lot on the junior high level. I mean, we were hell on junior high, and I had a great group of kids to go with it. So I dibble and dabble with the press, and you know how it is, Mike, when you coaching, and then certain things just come to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm that kind of guy. I might, it's just okay, boom, if I do this right here and I do this right, and I just started drawing in the dirt with them. And then in 2000, I was kind of ready to move around and get back a little, because I was living in Houston by now, and so I wanted to kind of get into a better situation as far as financially, get a little pay raise and still coach. So my athletic director, hey man, I need you here. The girls' job is coming open. Do you want to be the head girls coach? And my thing is, I just wanted a head job, and so yeah, I take the girls' job, and was probably one of the developmental wise the best 5 years of the game for me, because
Okay.
that's where the
Okay.
stuff that I do right now, that 5 years, and I had a group of girls who enabled me to, create and draw in the dirt and scratch it out and change it and just really perfect my style of basketball that I wanted to play. Because one, with yourself, once you get some girls to buy in, you got you something.
That's it. They're
And
gonna run through a
so,
wall for you.
right, we had to play a different way than what I wanted to my first 2 years, because we were so big. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest girls teams I had, and they were slow. And so I had to, go back to drawing in the dirt, and I kind of developed my half court trap that I run, because we were long, and really got back into the angles and stuff like that. So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
perfected my half
Mm-hmm.
court stuff and my 1-3-1 zone defense with that big group of girls. And then we did that for 2 years, and then all of those big ones graduated. Now I got a bunch of rabbits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here go the nature hikes. Really, the times on the nature hikes started shrinking so they can run. So our third year, we back in the lab. We 2 years in the playoffs, uh, and we still playing like we had those big girls though. And this ain't working for us. We can't throw it into the post. We can't swing it
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
wing. So we had to. We go in halftime. And I never will forget. I said, "Look, forget this." I said, "Everybody get somebody." And I said, "I don't care who it is. We're not trying to find a matchup." I said, "Get on them." And I said, "I want to know what kind of gum they chewing for the next 16 minutes. No help, no nothing." I said, "We out of the zone. We not trying to trap them at half. We just gonna get up in their grill." So, and that's what they did. And
Yeah.
we didn't let them breathe. And so it's next day, it's down. We down 10. Next thing you know, we up 10, and it just never stopped from there. So I had that group of girls for that 3 years, and so I put in a zone press, and then I developed my own version of the running jump, which is I've done
Mm-hmm.
a couple of clinics on it. It's kind of unorthodox, but it's mine. And then just like any zone or any defense you play, if your kids understand it and know where to be,
You can rock and
it'll
roll
work.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now some of my rules, you'll be like, "What?" But those are my rules, and that's what they understood. And so we call it 21, 20 and 21. We full court man, getting back and just going straight man. And then when we get in our 21, we're gonna trap the first pass you make in cross half court. And
Yeah.
then we just added a couple other simpler rules. If you dribble into the corners, we treat a dribble entry to the corner just like a pass to the corner. And so they understand the rule. It was, if you're behind it, go tip. If you're beside it, go trap. If you're in front of it, stay with your man. You the intercept. And
Yeah.
so I simplified it down to the basic rules, and they
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when I moved over to the boys' side in '05, it was kind of the same situation. I was looking, I wanted a boy job. All my homeboys are head basketball coaches on the guys' side. I love the girls, but I kind of wanted to get on the boys' side,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And so in '05, it was the same thing. He's like, look, man, Hancock leaving, you want the boys' job. Yeah, I do. And so that was, the 5 straight district championships. And then so the long way around that question, I was able to draw in the dirt and make mistakes and had the kind of kids who would enable my mistakes to turn into something good because they believed in what we were doing and they did it full speed. Like you always say, you can mess
Yeah.
up and mess up full speed, and that's what they did. So we were able to, I was able to formulate. I got a pressure man defense, and this is what I'm gonna do in that. Offensively, this is what we're gonna do. I was a dribble drive guy when it first came out, and I've had to run a little bit more set wise since I've been at Westfield on this level, but that's how I developed it. Because coming in, I had the freedom to just really do it like I wanted to do it. I bought a lot of tapes and I just kind of pulled and picked and, you know, talked with my coaching circle and that's what we came up with.
That's good stuff. What I wrote here in my notes, man. Student of the game. Student of the game. You can't cheat the game.
Right.
You can't cheat the game. So let me ask you this. You said, you've kind of had to go to more sets since you've been at Westfield, since you've been on this level. What led to that change?
Well, just when you especially on the 6A level, number one, the guard play is so good. But then when you didn't, you in order to do that, you need an elite level of athletes who can just get out there and go for 32 minutes.
Yeah,
And we just you have to coaching is being a student of the game is being able to adapt. So I had to adapt a little bit more to what I had. I had a big kid who could fill it up inside, and I had some kids along the way who could shoot the basketball more, and but they weren't that running and trapping type of kid. I wanted to, I
yeah,
tried to,
yeah,
but I had to just relent that, hey man, these kids aren't really built for that. They don't have that mentality. Because the good thing about it, going back for a second, is those kids I had at New Waverly that I made those state tournament runs with, I had them as third graders. I had them in PE. That's the thing about
yeah,
those schools.
yeah,
I had
yeah,
them
yeah,
boom, and I had them in junior high, and then I became the high school coach and I had them in basketball. And a great story is one of the kids, as we were getting ready to go to state for the first time, and they interviewed him and we were talking. They were third graders. And he said, well, we already had played in the state tournament before. Coach Goffney threw a tournament. We had a state tournament when we were in the third grade. And I used to tell them all the time, somewhere in the state of Texas, somebody going to be a state champion. And they right here in the third grade with y'all, and they working like that.
yeah,
So it was kind of like, I had those kids brainwashed a certain way. And that's
yeah,
all
yeah,
they knew. We didn't have all that AAU basketball back then and a lot of different coaches in their lives. Every year they playing for this guy and this guy and this guy. They played basketball at New Waverly. They played basketball in PE and at the high school, and that's where they played the game at. And so it
yeah.
was and that's I really hated to leave because you have that form system
That's
where it's
special.
all one way from bottom to top.
That's
So
special, man.
yeah, most definitely, most
That's
definitely.
special. That's special. Listen, I love, you know, I always wanted to coach boys, but I'm a girls coach. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? So man, I love you sharing that story. That you started coaching girls. I've been in it so long, man, that it's kind of I didn't find my niche. You know
right.
what I'm saying? But man, I appreciate you sharing that story, man. All right,
Yeah, and I
coach.
loved it, man. I loved it. I loved it. I've I've had some great teams, and buying in is one thing, but you still got when you're dealing with boys, it's still a show factor that you got to deal with. With them
Yeah,
girls, they just buy in and okay, coach, run through that wall and then make a left. Okay,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's what they did.
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
man, that's what's up. That's what's up. Listen, if y'all listening, man, Coach Goffney is really he giving y'all 29 years of wisdom. So if you listening or if you're gonna be watching on YouTube, I'm telling you, man, this is 29 years of wisdom. Sometimes it takes drawing in the dirt.
Yeah,
Man, coach, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Hey, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. I remember personally, man, I was coaching JV, getting out coached. Close game, came down to the end, and I was like, dang, she got me. Do you remember the first time you out coached?
Yeah, it was my girl year. This was back in that first year of coaching when I first said that I just flat out didn't have us prepared to play, and it was my first playoff game, and we just weren't ready. Like I said, we weren't that pressing type just then. I had been used to just running over everybody in junior high, and our press was the best press. But I realized that I hadn't prepared my team to handle a 2-2-1 trap. And we were in Sam Houston Coliseum. We had a playoff game against East Chambers. And East Chambers is a girls' basketball power in that day. And we were
Mm-hmm.
in the Coliseum first playoff game. I'm GQ Smooth. And they put it on us. And it wasn't nothing I could do.
Yeah.
And then the second that was my first time, but the first time that I really felt like that, though, well, not the first time, but the second time and the most profound on me was my first state tournament appearance, and we were playing Jim Ned in that game, and they broke our press, and we had to get out of it, and then we went man, and they bust our head. We went zone, and it was just nothing that I could do to slow them down, and then that's when I realized that you can press all that, but you better be able to play solid half court man defense. You better be able to stop somebody on defense. And after that, we would run you but to the ground. But those next 2 years, I was like, and playing on that level, 2A, 3A level, it's gonna be some games where people just can't play with you. And so I would like, listen, I'm done with all that pressing. This half, coach, I need you to come out and I need you to man me up so we can work on running our offense. And I need to get out of the press. I'm gonna get out of it, and I need to make sure my kids can play defense because that time in the district we were, 36-0 in district, and nobody had, could come close to us. So I had to prepare them for that, so that would never happen again. I tell my home, but I felt like I was standing on the state championship floor butt naked because we couldn't do nothing defensively when we got to that level of kid, and they were just, and I would never be caught where we couldn't play defense again in the half court. And that's the thing about that. My philosophy is about the pressure and up tempo. But we're gonna be able to play you some man. We'll be able to play you a 20, which is our full court man defense. That's where I started at. I used to start in with these shell drills and doing all this press stuff, but now, I go around to the junior highs a lot and try to get my man principals in with them down there so that they've heard the terminology. And I have several eighth graders in the gym with us now. And, we learn how to play man defense first.
That's
Uh,
good. That's good.
yeah.
You got, man, listen. My high school coach was a defensive genius, defensive mastermind, man. So I have been a defense first guy. Um, until I'm still a defense first guy. I was having this conversation yesterday until one year, man. It might have been my first year as a head coach. We lost a game 28-22. And I was like, golly, man, we're gonna have to work on offense a little bit more because the defense all right, but this 22 points, man, that was
Yeah.
terrible. That was absolutely terrible, man. That was absolutely terrible. Coach, man, I appreciate you sharing that. Listen, let me one last question, and then we're gonna transition into the end of this conversation. Do you ever lose sleep during the season?
What? The question should say, do you sleep during the season?
Okay. Okay.
And the answer would be no, I don't sleep. But to answer your question, yeah, I definitely lose sleep, coach. And there's nothing I can do, coach. I got a built-in alarm clock that say 4:30 in my head,
Yes, sir.
and probably
Yes,
for
sir.
10 years, coach, it would be 4:29 or 4:31.
Yep.
Most of the time, 4:30. I'm up wide awake until 1 or 2 minutes before it's time for the alarm clock to go off.
Yeah.
Damn, what I need to do. What do I need to do today in the period? What do I need? What we, and I mean, even when we were at our best, and I knew I just can't sleep.
Yeah.
That's why these are here now.
Yeah.
It's just 29, 20 years, 22 years of waking up at 4:30 in the morning, ready to go. I was, from a rest spot potential. I mean, one of the state championship game, coach, I literally fell asleep with my head in the plate. I crashed out at the table.
Oh man.
Yeah, coach, it was tough because at that time I was coaching football too. So
Oh
you
yeah.
get out of
Yeah.
football, you're physically tired,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you go a couple of rounds in the playoffs, and then you in there, it's number one team in the state, and with that pressure that comes along with that, now that mental part of it comes in. You're already physically tired because you've been out there in
Yeah.
the heat since August,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so and then you're not sleeping good. So
Yeah.
it's some stresses that go along with it.
Man, the season is, I thought the first time I was fortunate to have a decent playoff run where we played a few rounds, man, I had no idea how exhausting that would be.
Yeah.
And
Oh
why,
yeah.
and it was fun, but I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think at the end of it, I was more tired than I had fun.
Yeah.
Just man, the preparation, the grind that had to go into all of that.
Yeah,
That's good
bro.
stuff. Coach, that's good stuff. All right, coach, check this out, man. We're gonna play a game real quick. You ready for this?
Yeah, I got you.
Hold on. Let me find my I done lost my doggone index card. All right, coach, I'm gonna ask you just 5 random questions, man. Sound like they drag racing out there.
Man, it's been good. Now here they go.
All right. So, man, this question I ask everybody. I ask everybody that come on the podcast this question. All right. If you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
Are these basketball related or just general
Just
questions?
in general. It could be general, could be basketball related. Listen, the first thing that comes to mind, that's what I want you to spit out.
Ah, man, I want to fly, man. Superman. I
Okay.
want to be able
Okay.
to fly.
All right. Coach, what's your biggest pet peeve? Now, that's one in basketball. I want you to be real specific to basketball on this one. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Balls on the floor.
Oh,
Balls on the floor. I hate balls on the floor. We got
ooh,
5 racks. Why is it a ball laying on the floor?
man, listen. But you know what? In all of the things that we have to teach as coaches, that's one of the things we got to teach.
Yeah.
That and so seniors are responsible for basketballs with us. So seniors, y'all are responsible for getting the balls, making sure all the balls on the rack, putting the balls away. Man, the seniors will bring the rack in the gym and leave that thing in the furthest corner.
Yeah.
Leave it in the furthest corner. So I have to today, this morning, we in sports specific this morning. I'm like, hey, why don't y'all just bring the rack up to half court?
Just put it at half court.
But man, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy.
And I'm saying, why don't y'all bring them all out and put one at half, one on that half, and one on each end?
That's
Every
easy.
time, all right, rack them. All you see is balls rolling, balls rolling.
Yep.
Okay, y'all
Man.
go ahead, man.
No,
Just
don't
let me
no.
catch one on the floor.
You put your ball up. You are responsible for putting your ball up. Anyway, all right,
Yeah,
coach. Question number 3. Coach, who was your childhood hero?
my childhood hero, my daddy, man, my
That's what's
daddy.
up.
Uh, my dad's a good dude, man. He's a hardworking man. He didn't let me be lazy. Uh, he bust my head when it needed to be busted, and you know, he was firm but fair.
Man, sound
Firm
like
but
your
fair.
pops and my pops know each other, man.
Yeah.
Same thing. Same thing. All right, coach. 2 more questions. If you could have dinner with anyone in the world, anybody in the world, dead or alive, who would it be?
I'd like to sit down with President Obama, man.
Okay.
I
Okay.
watched him. You talked about that basketball swag. I just like to be in the presence of that swagger that he has and that drip that he has, but at the same time can run a country, man. I could learn something from that dude.
No doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. All right, coach. Last question right here. Last question. What's at the top of your bucket list?
A state championship, man.
There it
I've,
is.
I've skated around that joker so many times, you just don't know, man. And that's the one thing that got away from it. Yeah, and it's an elusive thing, and it just doesn't happen. We've been fortunate enough to be there, but there's so many that doesn't even know what that. When you get there and you're in that Final Four, and we were a bucket away from heisting, and just one turnover that changed the whole game for us, man. And I'm talking about right there where it's
Yeah.
so that haunts me, man. That's that 430 right there.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
Dang.
bro.
Dang. Let me ask you this. Cause I heard a coach say this one time, man. So if you had to choose between 20 district championships and one state championship, what you taking?
I put it like this: I probably got almost 20,
Yeah.
but I'm still hollow over here as far as when that go, because I want to be like, we got rings in other sports, but I don't have one with that on my hand.
Okay.
And I got a couple in there from different other sports, man. But I want that championship. Give me one district championship and one state championship, and I can call it a career. I
There it
got the
is.
district, not those you can't. Well, I say that you can't win state without winning district. So, yeah, give me one state championship.
Okay.
Give me
Okay.
one
Just
state championship.
just wondering. Just wondering. All right, coach.
Yeah.
Man, we're in crunch time. We're in crunch time. All right, coach. So I'm gonna ask you, we got a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. All right. So the 4 is 4 quarters. I'm gonna ask you 4 questions. Here's the first one. If you could be anything other than a coach, what would you be?
Um, I would probably be an attorney.
Okay.
I like the law and arguing and would want to help fight some of these injustices that we have to face. So I would law enforcement, either a lawyer or a policeman. I have
Okay. All right.
some
Second
uncles in my
quarter.
family.
Okay. Second quarter. What's the easiest thing about the job that nobody really knows?
The easiest thing about the job is the relationship you have with the kids. That's the easy part of connecting with them, motivating them. That's the easy part of it. Being a people person and naturally gravitating to kids and kids naturally gravitating to you. It's a hard job for some people who your personality is so rough. My
Mm-hmm.
personality is so rough, but I'm still so personal because they know no matter how hard I am on them that day, I'll still buy them a cheeseburger and take them home.
Yeah.
And so that relationship building part of it is always came pretty easy to me.
Okay. Third quarter. What's the toughest thing about the job that nobody really knows?
Uh, I think the toughest part of it, especially in these days, is channeling the kid, being able to turn off what he's done since the season ended and getting him back in tune to what you're doing as a program and at the school that you attend. It's hard sometimes because, kids get offers and to get a phone call or mentions on a website. And now you think that's how it goes. I can practice twice and play 76 games, and
Oh,
it's working for me.
yeah.
Now when I get back and I need to try to get an hour and 45 minutes out of you 5-6 days a week, it gets tedious and tough. So it's hard keeping their attention.
Okay.
It's one of the toughest parts for me.
Okay. That's good. That's good. That's them progress problems, man. When you got these high level kids like that. All right. Y'all take
Yes.
notes. All right. Fourth quarter, coach. Who's got the tougher job? Coaches or officials? So before you answer, all right. So you my third basketball coach, right? You my third
Mhm.
basketball coach. So right now it's 1-1. One said officials, one said coaches. So out of three, you about to be the tiebreaker so far. What you got?
Oh, definitely we had the toughest job.
Definitely. He said
Definitely we
definitely.
had the toughest job. We had the toughest job because we have so much riding on this. I referee myself. I referee volleyball, and I know the tough part of basketball. That's why I very rarely do it now, and I just love and stick with volleyball because your pressure comes from the stands, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But like I told the guy, you didn't wake up at 4:30 this morning trying to figure out how to beat these guys, and
Yeah.
now you sitting here and you know I say it all the time, and I don't want to rub anybody's the wrong way when I say this, but this is you don't have to be a professional to be a basketball official. This is one of the only situations where a professional is governed by a non-professional in a lot of cases.
Yes.
When I was up in New Waverly, I had a lot of guys who worked for TDC in that chapter up there, and they came in the gyms a lot of times with some very condescending attitudes because that's what they've been doing all day.
Yeah.
You know, but I put a lot into this game that we're playing right now. You're gonna play and you're gonna go and you're gonna blow a call and you're not gonna lose 1 hour to sleep over it. But it could cost me a season. It could cost me a district championship. It could cost me, a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got way more riding on it. So I would definitely say the coach.
Okay, man. I listen. I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. All right, coach. That was good stuff, man. That was good stuff. So that was 4 quarters. All right, coach. 3 in the key. Give us 3 things that all coaches need. 3 things that all coaches need. What you got?
A good coaching circle. A
Okay.
good coaching circle. A good friend who knows more than you. You
No
don't ever
doubt.
want to be the smartest in the group. You
No
got
doubt.
to have somebody in your circle that you can call and say, "Hey, doc, this is what's going on. What do you do when?" All right. And then you got to have confidence in what you're doing. You got to believe it. In order for those kids to believe it, you got to believe
That's what's up.
it. And you got to bring that positivity and confidence into the practice every day. And then I'm going to sum it up as one thing. And these are our core things, but you got to have energy, effort, and enthusiasm. You got to bring it every day.
That's what's up.
I tell them all the time, like I told them this morning, I can't keep leaving out of here on stroke level. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
come in
Yeah.
there every day and I leave out on stroke level because I'm that passionate about it and I'm that intense in what I do. So you got to have that passion and drive with it.
That's good. That's good stuff, coach. All right. 2 shots. 2 shots. 2 of the most foul things that you have experienced as a coach. 2 of the most foul things that you've experienced as a coach. What you got for us?
Man, I had a game just completely taken away from me by an official. I mean, he just sit there, and it's a tight ball game, and we're coming down to a stretch, and it was a tie game, and the Cleveland had the ball, and they were going to dribble down and take one shot. So, and I was going to sit there and let them take it. We in a zone. They ain't here to jump all night, so I'm gonna sit in there and let y'all
Mm-hmm.
take this jump shot and miss it, then we'll go into overtime. So I'm sitting there at half court, and the clock is just running, and I look up at the referee. I was kind of down on a knee, and the referee is standing there, and he's standing there with his hand up, with a ball fist. And so I asked him. I said, "Hey, ref, why you got your fist up? What are you about to call?" He put it down real quick. Now the clock is just still ticking.
Oh
Clock
man.
is still ticking, and all of a sudden he just blows the whistle, burp, runs down, and they huddle up and talk. And I promise you, I hadn't said a word. He runs back over to the table. He says, "I got a technical foul on the red coach, 2 shots." And I had sat down next to my sister. I said, "Ain't no telling what he finna call." He comes back and says, "I have a technical foul on the red coach, 2 shots," and goes back. And I'm jumping up. I'm like, "Man, what the heck is going on? What are you talking about? What are you taking me for? Because I asked you why you got your fist up." So the coach come on, one of the refs come over there. Coach, just chill. I said, "No, but time out." I said, "I got a right to know what I am getting a technical foul for." He said, "You right, coach, you right." So they go back down there and huddle up again. He come back to me. He said, "Coach," he said, You tapped him in his back as he was passing by. And I'm like, that was in the third quarter
Wow.
when he was running by me. Now, here's the deal. We were up probably 16 on him. And you know how the team go on that run and they kind of
Hmm.
swallow their whistles for that team that's on the run. Well, when he
Yeah.
passed by me, I was like, come on, ref, give me one now. And that's all I did in the third
Wow.
quarter. So he called the tech and they hit both free throws and beat us by 2. And they had to drag me out the locker room because I went in there.
Woo.
I was hot. I was,
Man.
and then probably the number one spot. And I know you can say how I could get worse than that. First year coaching. I'm in Buffalo, Texas, right up 45, and I'm sitting in eighth grade basketball game. We're coaching, and Buffalo was good. Buffalo was putting it on, so I'm working the ref. I'm like, "Hey man, come on, man, give me that sucker call a foul or something." And he walked over to the sideline, and he put his finger about right here in my face and said, "You sit down and shut up and don't say another word." And it just filled me up. But I looked, and I mind just my first year, fresh out of college. I looked, and my principal, the superintendent, and my junior high principal are all sitting right there in the bleachers. And I had to swallow that because I didn't know how to
Man.
handle it. And to this day, I don't even know what he looked like. I don't remember. But if I saw him in church, because my principal said, I can't believe you swallowed that. She said, I know your daddy, and it just
Man.
burned me up. I didn't know how to handle it because my first, was to slap it, and I
Slap
had
the
to
fire
eat it.
out of him.
Oh my God! So
Oh
ever since
man.
then, every no referee could get away with it since then. But that one time, and I talk about it, man, that it could be in the church. We're gonna
On
tumble
site.
in the church on site.
On site. Hey man, that's
Yeah,
foul.
man.
Yeah, that's
Now
foul.
that's foul. And that's the foulest of the foul.
Man. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
foul. That's foul.
I'm
Dang.
talking about like right here, man. And you don't do
Woo.
that. They call the chapter and then, but this is junior high basketball and this is 1994. And they tried to do, but I looked for him for a long time, man. For a
Man.
long time.
Yeah, the Lord has been on his side. The Lord then covered him up.
I wouldn't
Man.
know him. I wouldn't know him now for nothing, but I still remember that, man. I would
Man.
be like, just give me a sign, Lord. Just let me know that's him.
All right, coach. Man, that's good stuff. All right, man. We down to the last thing. And one. Coach, one thing can be anything that you want to share before we exit. What you got for our watchers and listeners?
Yeah, you only get one chance to do it. This game that we coach, this game that we chose, all of it the same way. This profession chose us. I mean, we chose this profession then chose us. So you owe it to do it the right way. Don't half do this stuff, man. If it takes you waking up at 4:30 in the morning and being there at 8:30 at night, give them every opportunity that they deserve. You know, you're gonna lose some. It's some that's gonna come back 10 years from now and say, "Coach, you were right." But you gotta coach them just the same. I'll close it with a little short story I had to tell one of mine because I was real rigid my first year at Westfield, and I had put a couple of kids off, and we were going into the playoffs, getting ready to play Klein Forest, and I was wrestling with it. And one thing my old college mentor told me, he said, "Don't make a lot of rules, because then you you make a whole bunch of rules, you're gonna have to follow a whole." Yeah, yeah. So I kind of always kept that approach, but at the same time in this game, you have to realize this one thing. And I was getting ready to go into that game, and I was just wrestling with it, man. And I said, it came to me after my prayer. It came, and it said, all lessons not for you to teach.
Mm,
Sometimes you have to let life teach you.
That's good stuff,
And so we
Coach.
still talk about that. I always share that with my coaches and tell them all lessons, as much as we want to, all lessons ain't for us to teach. You can try and give it 100% and don't ever feel like you failed at it. Sometimes it just wasn't your lesson to teach. It'll come back around. Hopefully even before it's too late. But all lessons not ours to teach either, though. But still, give it your 100.
Coach, man, that's wisdom. I appreciate you, man, giving us your time, sharing that wisdom. So I don't care if you're watching this on YouTube, Spotify, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, man, I just want you to like, share it, subscribe, follow, whatever it is that y'all do. Man, listen, this has been good stuff, Coach. I appreciate it. Listen, we're gonna sign off right here. This is the Coaches Co-op Podcast. My name is Michael Prejean, Coach Prejean for Billy Goffney. I just need to remind y'all that coaches do what most people can't. It's a calling. Do the
It's a
best you
calling.
can. Coach Goffney just told you, man. You only get one shot at this. Appreciate y'all.